5 fantastic psycho-spiritual books and a wonderfully complex question to guide our conversation today. On the screen, I'd like to ask how to protect my own energy from being influenced by the energy of others, whether it's from people, things, movies, or the news, and then we'll continue in just a minute into the specific details of how to form rock-solid, impenetrable energetic boundaries and stop this habit of letting the outer world leak in, or maybe your inner world leak out. I've got a 3-stage framework that I'm going to walk you through in today's video, and as I mentioned, 5 fantastic books that you'll get before the end. This is worth your time. In the next 20 to 30 minutes, I will give you a lot of gold for free. These are the kind of things that I've taught my clients and my students, and I've broken it down to something which is really applicable. But we will start from the spiritual, and then to the mental, and then to the emotional, and then to the material. The first stage that we're going to be talking about is the aspect of energetic voyeurism and the specific mechanics of perception. That's the wider framing of the conversation. We'll then move to the second stage of the conversation, which is about upgrading or evolving your understanding of transpersonal psychology. And then the final stage, the material stage, some practical boundaries and practical useful tips from me to literally set up some boundaries so that you can then materialize in a literal sense all of the energetic work that you've done in the unseen realms to have those rock solid impenetrable boundaries. We'll get through it together. No devils, no demons, no ghosts, no ghouls, and not even the thought of a devil, a demon, or a ghost or a ghoul shall enter your energetic realm. Let's start with the question. I'm going to bring it up over my face and go into the context. It's very important. Continuing with the question. To explain more clearly, I'm pregnant, and I sometimes find myself feeling afraid that the opinions or thoughts of others could somehow magically impact my pregnancy and the outcomes of my motherhood. It feels like a childish insecurity, almost as if I'm reverting to the vulnerability I had as a child. I have always been like that. I do not like to tell people about personal stuff because I'm afraid of the evil eye, and I'm an atheist. It's fascinating. The conversation will continue into this particular evil eye, atheistic, magical thinking in the second half of the transpersonal theory. But before we make it more personal, let's start with the general aspect of this wonderfully layered question from this very mindful pregnant woman. The first thing that I want you to do, to build stronger energetic boundaries and to stop experiencing the thought forms of the world around you in a way which is no longer working for you, is to stop being a little bit of a peeping Tom. To stop energetically undressing people around you. It was a conversation that came up in the Shadow Work Library seminar, I believe 2 weeks ago. One of the students brought up this topic of forming energetic boundaries, and I found myself speaking to the group of 25 of us about the idea of energetic voyeurism. It was really, really important to emphasize this in the same way that when you are overcoming a sensual addiction to pleasure and you're mentally undressing potential romantic partners with your eyes, when you are learning about psycho-spiritual concepts, energy fields, the impact of energies upon your identity and your essence and all kinds of things in between, you end up quite often in an unconscious compulsion to energetically strip people around you so that you can see their true self or see their core, you see their aura, you feel their intentions, or maybe you think you're not doing it intentionally, you're doing it unconsciously. It doesn't matter. You're still choosing it. In the same way that the sensual addict is always undressing the women on the street or always looking at the bulge in his pants and you're thinking, wow, I wonder how big that is, or wow, I wonder what she's got down there. Just pause and think. How similar is your energetic perception of others? When you're walking down the street, are you looking more than you should look? Not with your eyes, but maybe with your third eye. Get a bit cheesy, but with your third eye. Are you looking more than you should look? Are you being energetically voyeuristic? The questioner today is not someone that I'm trying to attack or condemn or criticize. We're working together to solve this question together. However, when I have worked with clients who've got this energetic sensitivity to the world, and they're also experiencing what they describe as the thoughts or impressions or judgments or perceptions of other people kind of psychically spilling into them, yes, it's a question of boundaries. Yes, it's a question of their energetic force field may have a few leaky entrance points which allows the energy to seep through, but you're also in the act of perception inviting that same energy within. Energetic voyeurism and the specific mechanics of what perception is are vital for you to understand to be able to have a robust, genuinely reliable strategy of energetic protection in the world. If you look for it, it will come. Which is why limiting certain access to certain types of media, for example, adult content on the internet, or certain types of music, certain types of entertainment, certain ideas, is a great idea at a practical level, and we'll come back to this later on. But energetically, be honest with yourself. When you've been learning about all these spiritual concepts, the nature of the soul, the nature of your energetic body, the nature of trauma, the nature of wounding, and all the psychological books that you've been reading, don't lie to me. I know that you'll read body language on the people on the streets. You'll be scanning and pinging against them. You'll be looking at them, or even your heart will be pinging against them. And it's always happening. Even if you've developed a certain ability to put that on the down low and you're not doing it so often, there's likely a bit more of an energetic baggage around the theme. I know. I've been there. I remember what it was like when I first got into reading some of the books I'm going to show just a bit later on. This was maybe 6 years ago or something like this, when I really went into the transpersonal studies. I would walk down the street and I would feel wordlessly as if I have just learned the essence of the wounding of the woman that just brushed by me. I looked them in the eyes for a moment. I saw half a second of eye contact. I somehow read all of their body language, and I felt that they had been massively abused as a child. I know the specific thing that happened to them. Was I delusional? Was I schizophrenically scanning something that wasn't there, or was I intuitively, pre-intellectually or post-intellectually, depends on the transpersonal perspective, we'll get a bit more technically precise about this in a moment, was my intuition or my instinct actually spot on the mark? Did I learn something in that moment that they wouldn't have wanted to show to me, but privacy is a false concept in the energetic realms? There's always an auric interaction, there's always these tendrils, literally they pass by me and I feel, that's what happened to them when they were 5 years old. This was happening for me constantly. So I needed to kind of withdraw my energetic perception. I needed to stop looking so deeply. And interestingly for me, likewise in my last 5 years of practicing retention and being free from adult distractions on the internet, it's interesting how the same pattern of not undressing women with my eyes is the same for not undressing men or women with my energetic eyes, unless they invite that particular moment, which is what professional, consensual, therapeutic collaboration is at its very core. From working with a man and he's saying, "Hey Jordan, here I am. Can you please look at me? What's wrong with me, doctor?" Basically, it's like imagining someone taking off the shirt. I was like, "I've got this rash on me. Can you please take a look?" Of course I'll take a look, but I'm waiting for that moment of consent. If I'm going to apply that therapeutic gaze or that energetic perception, I better bloody well get consent. Not only for the sake of them, but for the sake of me and my energy loss. What's happening here with this questioner, whether they know it or not, and whether you know it or not, is if you are continually pinging against the possible perceptions, the possible thoughts, and the probable ideas of those around you, you are literally experiencing them in a way that you can just turn away. Look away. It's why within certain cultures in the world, again, you can think of this what you will, there's a habit of men and women not looking each other in the eye. Maybe it's culturally repressive. Maybe it's something which we should shame, and that's, dreadful, and that's backwards. But also, that which is lower also spins back round to then become higher. This is where we move into the second stage of the conversation. You need to upgrade your understanding of transpersonal psychology. The questioner today almost had this admission of strange guilt or a strange contradiction within of how they have this vulnerability since being a child, of always feeling vulnerable to the thought forms of other people. And they say, "I've always been like this. I don't like to tell people about personal stuff because I'm afraid of the evil eye, and I'm an atheist." And then there was a laughing emoji because they have that self-aware moment that I'm an atheist. I don't believe in all this spiritual stuff. Or even someone who says they're spiritual but not religious. They discard religiosity. They discard the lower level. They've achieved rational enlightenment. If you know anything about the stages of consciousness, the rational, of course, supersedes the magic and the mythic. The magic, the mythic, to the rational, to then the post-rational. But then there's a higher level beyond that, and many more higher levels beyond that as well. And Ken Wilber would call that the transcend and include model. Ken Wilber, recommend them many times on the channel. I've got some more books I'll bring out that I haven't recommended so often. You have to understand that you need not discard the previous level of understanding. Why is this questioner saying, I'm an atheist? Because there's a conflict, right? There's a conflict between, on the rational level, I'm an atheist who doesn't believe in these things, but somewhere maybe lower or somewhere maybe higher, there's something like an evil eye, there's something like a magical force. If you don't understand that that higher and lower isn't the same thing, lower magical consciousness to higher magical consciousness is not the same thing, you're going to be caught in a very predictable, friction-based, frustrating conflict between the rational mind and the lower magical, the lower mythical. Could be upgraded, and here's a few ways to do it. There's a few books I recommend you read. If you stuck around to this part of the video, then here is the reward for some books that you've seen me recommend on the channel recently, and some books that you haven't seen me recommend at all before. These are 5 books from Transpersonal Psychology. Transpersonal Psychology is the formal study of transpersonal, spiritual, psychological states and experiences. It is an established field that was roughly branched off the back of Abraham Maslow with some of his work. For example, Abraham Maslow being the founder of humanistic psychology. He founded the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology, I believe, in 1967, as he was likewise working on his pyramid of self-actualization. Maslow then became a leading figure. We've got, let's look at it. There's 80 years, almost 80 years of focused, that's not right, 60 years? 60 years. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not the 2040s just yet. We got 60. Wait, no. Can't do mathematics. It is 60 years. 67 plus 60, 27. You're listening to me for my energetic reads on things, not for my mathematical abilities, thankfully. It was always my weakest point in school, but that's a conversation for another day. Nonetheless, Abraham Maslow started the field of transpersonal psychology. Transpersonal psychology is everything that you've dreamed of in regards to, I wish all of this new age spiritual podcast stuff actually had some weight behind it, some study behind it, some evidential, experiential thing going on. Well, the good news is it's been an established field for many, many decades, and here are 5 books that represent the broad span of what you could learn within the overall transpersonal psychological space. Going to contradict myself because this book was written in the 1940s. Alice Bailey's From Intellect to Intuition is a high-level study at the intermediate and advanced level of the psycho-spiritual states and the many levels and layers of identity and the skills you need to develop at each level and layer of identity to be able to become a more integrated, more fully self-actualized human being. This book is a fantastic place to start. It's also within the Shadow Work Library, right at the end of my core curriculum. It is one of the books that students get to when they've done everything else. So I'm starting with kind of the deep end book, and students do struggle with this kind of book inside the community sometimes because it's a difficult book, but maybe a few more easy books to start with. Recommend that you also read a book like Trials of the Visionary Mind by John Perry. This book is fantastic if you're going through spiritual emergency, specifically for this topic, if you're going through the discomfort and agitation of always feeling everyone's thought forms all over you. This book will give you comfort. It will also give you that feeling of, I'm in charge here. I can use my consciousness to be able to have impact and effect on the world, and also I'm in control of my auric space, and it helps to calm down the stormy spiritual seas. Trials of the Visionary Mind by John Perry, that's your second book. And then I've got 3 more books I'm going to show you, which go into consciousness studies as a whole. The reason that I'm recommending consciousness studies on a video about how to build energetic boundaries is that you need to have a much richer, more nuanced, and quite honestly, more accurate understanding of the levels and layers of consciousness so you don't feel like you're so much under threat by the ambiguous evil eye that may or may not be out there. 3 books to recommend, and then I'll break down a bit more theory before coming to the practical boundaries as we wrap up the video. First book I want you to read, Coming Home by Sean Kelly. As you can see, that's about the planetary era of consciousness. This book relates very much to this book. You can read both of them together. This one's called The Global Brain, I believe by Peter Russell. Again, another consciousness studies book. And the final one, Changes of Mind by Jenny Wade. All 3 of these books are effectively transpersonal studies on the levels and layers of consciousness from the individual to the collective and every stage between. If you've enjoyed Ken Wilber, if you enjoy spiral dynamics, if you enjoy things like David Hawkins and his levels of consciousness, you're going to want to read these books. They are academic. Not all of them. This one, not so academic, more accessible. This one, very well referenced, very academic. It's up to you. I've given you the books. You could take a month to read all 5 of them, maybe a month and a half. This one's pretty dense. And then you won't need to worry about things. The one takeaway lesson that I want to give you is that there is a tremendous difference between the pre-intellectual and the post-intellectual. And in the rational mind, because you've yet to understand that the post-intellectual is something of great value, anything that seems ambiguously non-intellectual gets lumped into the previous category of dumb, because it's irrational. This is just a big mistake that people make if they haven't yet gone into those subtle states of spiritual awareness. It's why we have the phrase, I'm spiritual, but not religious. Why do you need to strike a blow towards religion? Can't you just say I'm a spiritual person? No, I'm spiritual, but not religious. I don't believe in any of those silly myths. Noah and the Ark. Word of God. Burning bush. Whatever it might be, depending on the faith. That's all discarded, because you're yet to be at the stage where the magic and the mythic has weight and power and energy, and some would say a higher level of truth than the intellectual mind alone. If you're looking at the chakra system, you're caught up in here, or maybe you're caught up somewhere in here, somewhere between the 5th and the 6th, and you've yet to fully unlock the 7th or fully decalcify your pineal gland, whatever it might be. That's, again, a topic for another conversation. The post-rational is not the same as the pre-rational. Post-rational, intellect to intuition, very, very different. So the evil eye concept, the voodoo level of consciousness, the early tribal stages of concept, isn't it funny? The spiral turns all the way around from this seems silly, rational mind is over here. This seems silly to have evil eye, casting spells and voodoo curses, but the spiral is yet to complete to, oh, wait a minute. Evil eye is definitely a thing, but not the same way it was presented before. Oh, God is definitely a thing, but not the same way it was presented before. And then guess what? You go back all the way to the other side, and the spiral dynamics of consciousness evolves ever unfoldingly towards more complexity and more integration. If you understand these things in a way that I'm just hinting at, I'm giving you an appetizer of how bloody rich this material is. Yes, I know it looks dense. Yes, I know that it's difficult to get through a book, but the terminology is all kinds of density. It's all kinds of intensity. I mean, you've got literal diagrams about the nature of consciousness. In a book like this, you got wonderful charts that break things down into brain-based sources and transcendent sources. Bringing it out in real time. I'm just trying to encourage you. Look, this is a comparison right here on this chart. Table 12, a comparison of pre-birth and post-death consciousness. This is what I believe to be the field of study which is the most scientific, rational-minded bridge into the realm of the spiritual that's far more nuanced and far more accurate than the New Age self-helpy podcasts that you've kind of sampled into. You know, you've been sneaking in a bit of chakra science, but you're a rational person and you're atheistic and you don't really believe in that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to sneak in this video because it's on my feed and I wonder what they're going to say. This will help you to build a bridge where you don't have to sacrifice your rational mind. You get to include all of it. That is my number one invitation as well for the video. It's stage 2 in the process, but the energetic voyeurism of you realizing that you're leaking outwards and you haven't got quite the energetic boundaries and the energy flows out, the energy flows in. That's stage 1. Stage 2, you need to upgrade your framework. The framework concept, your metaphysical understanding of energetic reality is in dire need of improvement if you feel like you're constantly being attacked by all kinds of evil energies or you're overly reaching and seeing too much. You've yet to fully truly understand how much power you have. You haven't yet harnessed your consciousness in a way that is your birthright. You don't yet have control because you don't yet know what you're looking at. I've been there. I'm not perfect on this either, but I've made a serious and focused effort for the last 5 or 6 years to really understand what's happening in these higher stages of consciousness without diminishing or dismissing the lower stages of consciousness. Practically, for things like grounding, I spent all of March working on ground flow, primal movement patterns in terms of my fitness practices. I was doing a lot of monkey crawls and bear crawls and spending time in deep squats and spending time on the floor. I was training, but I was also symbolically building up my energetic roots. And now we're in April, and I know that the theme for this month, because my birthday month, is speed and strength. And I've started sprinting for the first time in years. I'm going to go heavier in the gym, more weighted pull-ups, more heavy overhead press. Might even start deadlifting again. At the very least, I'm going to load up those farmer carriers. I'm going to do some heavy farmer walks again. Let's get back up to 100 kilograms in each hand. Why not? If you understand that the material and the spiritual are an ever-present ladder that goes all the way up and down, it's almost like a conveyor belt of energy, and you can't cut yourself off at the material roots or the magical roots or the mythical roots in service of the rational, because you'll then cut yourself off from the supra-rational, the post-rational, the deeply intuitive. It's something that gradually builds over time, but reading these books seriously will help. The final bit of advice that I can give you, I've already started going into it, is to develop some practical rules about energy management. Today's questioner is pregnant, so they've got that particular instinctive awareness that I need to protect myself and protect baby. There's some ways that you can do that. Really simple ones I'm going to wrap up the video with. If you are worried about, quote, people, things, movies, and the news, why not limit your time with people, things, movies, and news? I don't know what things refers to, but you can definitely limit people, movies, and news. In a recent video, I said that I stopped looking at the BBC website for about 2.5 months now. I've stopped checking news overall, especially in this quite chaotic political climate. The international affairs that are going on, there's always wars, there's always conflict, there's trade things going on, there's certain people in power who don't like other certain people in power, and people are scared. I haven't looked at this for months, and my life has been pretty fantastic on the inside. I felt pretty good. I felt pretty peaceful. But also, they might say, well, that means I'm not informed. That means I'm not following my duty as a citizen of the world. Well, you are, but you're working differently. I haven't been ignorant or blind. I just know the same old story. I studied history at university. It's no different. One of the things I think I benefit from that many people don't benefit from, or maybe it's a historian student thing, is that when you've spent years studying thousands of years of human society and culture, you get a very strange feeling that your moment in history doesn't really matter that much. I mean, think about the hottest political debates of even the year that you were born in. What was happening in your birth year? For me, being born in the 1990s, I don't know, obviously, because I was a baby, I was an infant, what the political themes were of literally what was going on in the news at that time. I understand later as I grew up, like dot-com bubble kind of things, but I wasn't experiencing it. I was blissfully ignorant of the political situation. That childlike freedom from global affairs is something that you shouldn't live inside all of the time. You should be informed, but why not bring more of it in? You don't know, and you probably have never gone back to study, like the month of your birth. What were the headlines from that month? Maybe it'd be an interesting thing for you to do. Go and look for your birthday. What were the headlines on the day that I was born? Or the month that I was born? What was the big political theme in my country or in the world? Maybe you never knew about that. Even just 10 years ago. What was happening 10 years ago from now? 2015 at the time of recording. Top of my head, what was happening in 2015 economically? I don't know. I don't know politically either. 2012, we were all worried about the world ending. 2020, there's a pandemic and everything shutting down. I don't know what happened in the middle years. Wars? Conflicts? People arguing over social media? What's changed? The freedom to establish the practical boundary based on the energetic purity that you're trying to really reinforce and experience in the world is something which you must value above all else. There's an extra book that comes to my mind. This book over here. If you didn't hear me as I turned away, I apologize. There's an extra book that comes to my mind. Subtle Activism. This book is a wonderful take on the effects of meditative consciousness on a collective level if you choose to look at the inner dimension of planetary transformation. It fits very much in the stack. It's a bonus book. It talks about distance healing. It talks about energetic boundaries. It talks about how when monks come together in cities, the crime rates quite literally go down. And parapsychology going back into the 1940s. It all references back together. Just pay attention. Final practical tip, stop watching the news. And also something I do on a week-by-week basis is I don't use social media Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Thursdays, I will talk to my clients and I will check my community comments and conversations inside my shadow work library. But I don't go on Instagram. I don't start watching videos on YouTube. I don't do it. The majority of the week, I am not consuming the world through a screen. I'm experiencing my inner world, I'm experiencing my literal material world around me. So that means that when things are coming in, I'm not oversaturated. So I can really discern, what is that thing? Oh, it's definitely a red object. It's a red energy. And I can tell because I'm clear, I'm translucent within, rather than I'm full of red. I'm full of that red energy, whatever that might be for you. Passion, lust, anger, fear, red. It's all red. Might be a clear object coming my way, but I taint it with the redness that's overconsumed me. I'm polluted by too much energy from the outer world. Of course, trauma healing is a big conversation within this. If you've got a lot of red in your past, it's going to be here in your heart in the present if you've yet to clear it out into the translucent, crystalline essence of an unpolluted heart. Then you're not going to be able to see the various aspects of the world for what they truly are. And again, final point, maybe sneaking in a bit of transpersonal psychology. Eventually, you realize part of your intuition or instinct is that you can see people's energies to some degree. You can pick up the essence of their story. You have all this psychological knowledge. Another part of it, to whatever percentage of the pie chart, 10%, 25%, maybe even more, is it's actually your stuff that you're projecting outwards. Your fears, your worries, your paranoia. It's an honest conversation. I've been there. I remember working through something that I mentioned on the channel a few months back, my old anxiety around the police. I never had any trouble with the law as a child. I never had any bad encounter of going to jail. But I had an old psychological hang-up, which I now know is due to authority in general, specifically male authority, that for many years, until only a few years back, whenever I'd be walking down the street and a police car would go, wouldn't be quite that dramatic, but kind of like, make sure I don't look like I'm doing anything illegal. Walking to the gym. Like, I haven't got a knife in my pocket. I haven't got drugs in the back of my trackies. I had no idea what was happening. I was like, what? I'm so safe. Why do police scare me somehow? Psychological baggage related to other experiences with authority figures in my childhood being carried over into a close approximation for collective authority that I was fighting against, or that fear, that victimization consciousness. Of course, I'm then projecting out that the police going past me, both of those coppers in the front, I can tell that as they're driving, they see me there in my hoodie on the street, and they're going to start a conversation about me right away. They're like, "Is that guy over there?" Oh yeah, he's one of the bad ones. I know. We're going to turn around. Yeah, turn around. Like, reality is, they're facing forwards. Someone's on the radio. Maybe they're just chatting about what they're going to have dinner, what they're going to have for dinner that night. I get it. I went into that moment there, and you can see my energy change a little bit because I was really trying to bring it to life of what it felt like to be in a traumatized, yet to be healed energetic body. You bleed out onto all things that you encounter, and maybe the things are bleeding in, but if you layer in all the advice I've tried to give in this video, you will find a way to be more or less clear on what does or doesn't come in or out of your energetic field. And if you're someone who's a pregnant mother, like the questioner today, knowing about prenatal psychology and the nature of what's happening in the womb and how those energies literally become you, the baby is attuning to the environment. You can go back into some very, very deep psychology if you study these books. What was happening when you're in the womb? Prenatal psychology, embryology, the baby is hearing everything. The baby is feeling everything through the mother. They know what kind of environment they're going to be born into. A child is born into a war zone. They are already ready at the nervous system wiring level because they have experienced the conflict and the adrenaline and the cortisol through the mother. They can even hear the muffled sounds of arguments or conflicts. These kinds of things really do matter. We're only just starting to understand them, I'd say, and yet we've been understanding them for, let's be real, a good 60, maybe 50, maybe 40 years. If anything, we've just forgotten these things. We've diluted our awareness of these things, and part of my job is to try and bring back the best of the transpersonal studies and somatic studies and archetypal studies that sadly mostly got buried from the late 80s, mid 90s onwards when the internet started coming out. It's interesting timing, but that's everything for today. If this video has been useful for you, leave some more top tips down in the comments for anyone else who's struggling with their energetic boundaries. If you want to join me in building some actual practically strong energetic boundaries. As I said earlier in the video, just a little invitation. We were talking about this topic in one of the Sunday seminars in the Shadow Work Library only 2 weeks ago. One-to-one guidance. In that group experience, I was talking to a student about this exact theme. I get to expand on it on YouTube and in those seminars and private messages where I'm talking to people between seminars, and in the messages you'll have with other students who are likewise connected by this passion for the unseen, for the yet to be integrated. You could learn a lot in this group space. You can check out the link in the description, and for the next 9 months of group coaching, it's a pretty fair deal for what you're getting, as well as a course that will take you over a year to work through with 36 books. I'm very proud of the work that I've done, and I hope that it serves you, both in the Shadow Work Library and here on YouTube, to have those rock-solid energetic boundaries, or maybe somewhat porous. That's up to you. I will just let you know, once again, please, before you click the next video, I've held up a lot of books. Scroll back, screenshot them, order them, please. Do it on my behalf. I wish I could read these books again for the first time. I bloody wish I could have that experience of learning just how much there is to learn, especially because I'm on book ban for the next 6 months. There's no new books in my life. 66 months, read about 3 books per week, and now I'm on book ban for the next 6 months. But that's a topic for another conversation. Maybe this conversation, maybe not. But there's a conversation over here anyway. I'll see you in that one. Be well, buy the books, build your boundaries, and know that you are the one who is in control.